Hey, so I want to continue some of the thoughts from last time, trying to put together some general principles of Weir's playing. I had been talking about what's characteristic of his playing is the way he combines and mixes and shuffles around the main guide tones, you might call them, of a chord. In a major chord, the 1, the 3, and the 5, and how he inverts them and the combinations. And sometimes he's doing the 1 and the 5, and sometimes it's the 3 and the 5, and sometimes it's the 1 and the 3, etc. And all the different places you can find on the neck, and the partial chords you can do from these different places on the neck. Just wanted to point out how it also goes for the minor chords. So just briefly consider this. This song, or this passage from Cassidy, where after a long jam, they return to Flight of the Seabirds, and the progression is F sharp, E, D. Now if you watch Bobby, at least on some of the videos, when it comes to the F sharp, you wonder, what is he doing? He's not anywhere near an F sharp up there. In fact, what he's got is an F sharp here. Well, just think for a moment about what's going on. Here's an A bar chord at the 5th fret. An F sharp minor is the relative minor of the A major, so that all the notes of the F sharp minor are contained within the scale of an A major. So when you're doing an A major, the notes for the F sharp minor should be in reach. They should be somewhere in that scale. Whoops, missed a note. And in fact they are. So here's the notes for an F sharp minor. We got our A, and then here we've got our C sharp, and then here we've got our F sharp. So there's an F sharp minor played at the 5th fret in a shape that most people would never think to play it at. But here it is, F sharp minor versus that other version. Clearly it's the same chord, but it's got a slightly different feel. So just another example of how, if you're thinking about the structure of a chord and you go looking for the different places to voice it, you can come up with some different sounding versions of that chord, which makes your playing all that much more interesting. One of the things that Bobby's really clever at as well is figuring out how to change chords without having to move his hands a whole lot. So being able to figure out an F sharp minor that puts him really close to the E and the B is just something that lets him move very quickly. And he does that lots of places. He'll use strange fingerings that let him leap from one chord to another without having to move all up and down the neck. All right, so there's a continuation from a last point. Now I want to go on and make a different point. If we think of it as increasing levels of weirdness, the first level of weirdness was simply these inversions and these different voicings and the partial chords. The second layer is going to be to work in extra notes. Again, it's important if you're engaged in extended improvisation, you don't want to be just playing plain old ordinary chords, even if you're using some inversions to spice things up. And Bobby does that all the time as well. He throws in extra notes where if you were trying to actually name those notes, you'd have quite a challenge. So let me give you an example. In Feel Like a Stranger, the chords that open it are really a G, D, and an A. But if you play it like that, you don't get anything that sounds like what he's doing. So what does he do? Well, first, plays a G shape at the 7th fret, then thinks about a D and an A at the fifth. But what he does to make it really interesting is he throws in extra notes that are part of the scales, but add some flavor. In this case, he basically uses the high E, at least as I hear it, a high E open all the way through, kind of acts as a drone. So you end up with a G with a ringing high E, and then a D, again, with the ringing high E, and ignore the D, and just get that middle section, what I call the, let's see, the 5, the 1, and the 3. And then when it comes to the A, again, leave out the first one and just get those. So put them all together, and you get something like. And that makes it much, much more interesting. While I was playing, at times I was just hitting notes I shouldn't have been, so I was just reaching up and muting them, some of the extra movement of my fingers. But that's something that also you want to think about doing when you're trying to play like Bobby is. You get your note, you get your chord, and then think about what other notes are in reach with whatever fingering you've taken that are still within, say, the scale that corresponds to that chord. What other notes fit, even if they're weird ones, even if it's the 6, or even if it's an unexpected use of a 4th. Just what else can you add to the chord to give it, again, some richness, a different color, a different feel or flavor, so that you're doing something that's interesting. And again, that's all the more important when you're in a jam band and playing songs that go on for 20 minutes. You got to find stuff that's interesting to listen to. Now, of course, there's going to be a correlative creativity required for rhythm, but I'm just talking about the melodic side so far.